Yeah, Mr. White. Yeah, science.
That's the classic. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode? I guess it could be an edition of
Really?
Franchise Unpacked. I'm your host, Zach.
And I'm your other host, Dave.
And we're excited to be here today.
Yes.
And, sometimes we do the, hey, how you doing as a formality, but Dave literally just walked in. So, Dave, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good.
Literally just walked in.
Yeah, little peek behind the curtain. I spent most of the day after work just playing Kirby's Dream Course with a former guest on the show,
Absolutely.
Greg Davis.
Yes, Greg.
Yeah,
shout out to Greg.
Yeah, shout out Greg. Get on the show again. That was a good time.
Yes.
But no,
for Kirby, maybe.
Oh my gosh, that'd be a fun one.
Ooh, putting it out in the universe.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We have a couple of sort of big things coming out.
Yeah.
I guess, Dave, if it's okay with you, I guess we can announce what we're going to call the Halloween episodes now.
Sure. I was going to just say that this week is the last week,
Yeah.
the last regular episode for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because starting in October.
Yep, we're going over to, we're going to call it Franchise Unspooked.
Spooky.
Because we love
ghosts.
And it's going to be a blast.
I'm so excited.
We have a few horror franchises. We have a couple of guests lined up.
Yeah.
It's just,
we're going to do some playthroughs. We already have some ideas for some
Yeah.
videos we want to record.
Yeah.
So, that'll be coming up very soon.
yeah. And we just wanted to say thank you again, because lately our listens have been growing. Our listener base has been growing.
Yes.
And it's just been just a real rip-roaring good time.
Also, we're just doing all our shout outs now.
Yeah.
I want to shout out another podcast that we've
Yeah.
been kind of buddying with a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
The Florida Men on Florida Man.
Yes.
Check that out. That's Florida Men on Florida Man. It's a phenomenal podcast. Really great. I've been listening to like all their backlog stuff the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks. And it's these four guys. They're really hilarious. They live in Florida and they have their listeners and also do their own research on these hilarious. You've heard of Florida Man.
The Florida Man stories.
Florida Man is, if you don't know who Florida Man is, he's kind of a royal we
Right.
of Florida. If you
Royal we.
if you're a male and you commit a crime in Florida, the headline will read Florida Man ...
Right.
.
Yes.
So I think there's a law that Florida is able to right away release information on crimes that occur before. So that's
okay.
why you hear all the crazy stuff come
That's
out of Florida.
amazing. Well, and they're so cool too.
They're really
very
cool
chill.
guys. They've been shouting us out, so we wanted to give them a great shout out.
Yeah.
Really check out their podcast. They talk about all sorts of stuff. Florida. I was listening to a bunch of the Disney episodes, so
Yeah.
it's really great.
But the reason that we're here today,
Yes.
as you know from clicking on the title, is to discuss the one and only Breaking Bad.
Ooh.
Which I mean, this one's so recent that I don't know if it's necessary to go into like the first experience with it. But let me ask, what's your most recent experience with it?
My most recent, today, seeing the new trailer. There was a new trailer for El Camino, which is the first Breaking Bad kind of film that's coming out on Netflix. And then also on AMC. They will be streaming it on AMC. But I just saw the recent trailer for that, and it did give a lot of information, and we'll get to it, including the fate of one Mr. Walter White. And I don't know if you picked up on that if you saw the trailer. Did you hear there's a police scanner part where he's Jesse's listening to... There are actually a couple trailers that were released. There was a short one where he's sitting in the El Camino out in the desert at night, smoking a cigarette, and he's listening to the police scanner. So over the scanner... Well...
We'll get to that.
We'll get to it. It's very important information.
I have to put something out there before we start this episode, really. And it's going to sound like a humble brag. It's just going to sound like a brag. And it kind of is. It's like the one sort of impression that I'm really proud of. I can do. Have I ever done it for you? What I like to think is a decent Jesse Pinkman impression. And the only reason I wanted to do it on this show is in high hopes that one day Aaron Paul will listen and be like,
we're going to hashtag you, Aaron Paul.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to at you.
We're going to at you.
So I wanted to share that with you guys. I hope that you like it as much as I enjoy doing it, because I just have a blast doing it. So,
hey, yo, Mr. White, can't we just make another batch or something? I mean, what if the instructions are like in Mexican or whatever?
That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Paul was just here in the studio. Hey,
okay.
See you later, Aaron.
I have a story to tell about that before we dive in. I was playing on like PlayStation Network once, and I was pretending to be Aaron Paul, and I was like,
I was like, hey, yo, acting on the set of Breaking Bad with Bryan Cranston was like the best experience of my life. And somebody believed it.
Of course.
And they sent me a message and they were like, yo, dude, it was great playing with you. Recently I was in a horrible motorcycle accident and this is the only thing that's given me like hope.
Oh no.
And I was like, no. Like,
did you just
no, well, I felt so bad. I felt so bad.
I was gonna say like, ooh.
And I was like, so I messaged him and I was like, hey dude, I'm a voice actor. And I said,
sorry.
I said, but if you want, I can send you like a voice memo. I said, your friends don't have to know that I'm a voice actor. So, and he was super cool about it. So I left him a voice message that was like, yo, dude, it was great playing with you today.
That's
you killed
awesome.
it during the match. So it was just like, it was a lot of fun, but I felt so bad.
That's great.
Anyway, now that I have my humble brag out of the way, I apologize.
And we'll do a little bit of a preemptive strike. There could be some adult conversations, not like, some language, possible, drug reference and stuff because of the show's
and
material.
Obviously spoilers.
Yeah.
This is an old-ish show,
beware.
Not old, but new and old at the same time. Old enough that spoilers.
Well, because of this movie coming out, I'm sure some people will be like either rewatching the series or starting it for the first time.
And that's where I'm at right now. Shelby and I have been rewatching.
Had Shelby watched it?
Yeah, she's seen it once. I've seen it 2 or 3 times before.
Sure.
One of my favorite franchises ever, I think.
Well, yeah, let's just dive into it with our experience. What was your we kind of talking about recent experience. What was your first memory of it? Mine's a little weird, and I had a little trouble raking my mind.
I was gonna say I don't know.
Racking,
whatever.
Racking my mind.
I don't know if I remember my first experience with it. I think it was just one of those things where I felt like I think it was after the 5th season came to Netflix because you know how it was like split up.
Yeah,
I think it was after the first half came to Netflix, and then I got hooked on it.
Yeah, I remember because it started in 2008, and so that would have been like my second semester of my first year at OU.
Okay.
I remember, and like I always remembered having trouble watching shows during the school year, especially being a theater major. Like all of our nights were taken up, so if there was like scheduled programming, and this was before, mind you, before like the on demand and stuff like that. We had, and if there was on demand and DVR and stuff, we sure didn't have it, in our college apartment. It was harder
to access. You were either, you were either pirating something, which I never did because I honestly was just afraid of catching a virus. But
you had to you could stream it off of iTunes. Which was a big thing I did near the end of the series, but we'll get into that. Yeah. But and I remember just being in the green room talking to people. I remember Peter Geisel was a big friend of the show, was a big fan of it. There were a lot of people who were like, "Oh yeah, this show, it's really good. You check it out." And then I think it just kind of slipped my mind for the first year or so. I don't think I really started watching it until season 2 started. And my brother was into it. My grandmother was into it.
Yeah, it has a far and wide reach.
Yeah, it was bizarre. What about you?
Like I was kind of saying, I didn't go too far into it, but I don't have a clear cut memory of when it started. I know that I got hooked on it quick. Whenever it came on to Netflix and was bingeable, I think I just remember sitting down and binging the entire thing up until that 5th season mid-season break.
Sure,
because they split that up by the course of a year, didn't they?
They did that for the last 2 seasons or the last.
Just the last
season, part A and part B. They were following the HBO. HBO, did that. I remember they did it with The Sopranos. They were like, it's a shorter season, but they're both season 6, or whatever. And you're like, why? Because they're like, because the stories. It immediately ties in. I'm like, well, yeah. There's no time jump, and you're like, okay, all right, whatever. But it's just and that's really aggravating. I think when they split up the seasons.
Yeah.
But I do understand. Story wise and filming, schedule wise, but like you said, you got hooked immediately, and this was the kind of show how it was produced. And we'll get into the plot of it here in a second, but each episode was a cliffhanger. It would start you off with the last scene basically of the episode, and then it would cut back and you'd figure out how they get to that point.
Right.
And then the episode would then end on the craziest thing that was even 10 times crazier than the last one.
And that was, to me, that was one of the things that they did so well is whether it was a cliffhanger at the end or at the beginning, they made you watch the whole episode to get any answers. And they structured it really well because you had to watch the entire episode to get answers from the beginning. Then you had to watch the next episode to get answers about the end.
Yeah.
And then you had to watch the whole season to get answers about the episodes and how they all kind of connect in that sort of gestalt way. And
yeah, I mean, it was cool. They like even starting with like a cut of the end of the episode or vice versa. Even at a lot of the beginning seasons, the very first episode starts with a final scene from the end of the season.
Yeah.
Like literally, like possibly, I always remember the teddy bear.
Yeah.
The floating teddy bear from the.
That's where we're at right now. We just got past. We might have just finished that season.
And it's wild how the plane crash all ties into Walter White. It all comes back.
And they really exercise one of those writing principles of getting your characters into trouble by coincidence is great, and getting them out of trouble by coincidence is cheating. Like they get them into trouble all the time by coincidence, but they can never get out of it by coincidence.
They have to use their smarts.
Yeah, they're smart.
Well, it's cheat. It's a Deus Ex, that kind of moment, if it's going to happen, should only come at the bitterest of ends because it's like hopelessness sort of. Right. So something has to come in and save the day. But I was thinking of this on the ride over, and the term Chekhov's gun. You've heard of it. You're a theater guy.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what Chekhov's gun is, it's the concept that Anton Chekhov was a very famous playwright. Realism was like his big deal. But the idea of Chekhov's gun is that if you see a gun on the table or it is presented or shown or a character's wearing one in the first act of a play, the gun will go off by the third act. Right. It's the idea of you're introducing a thing. And then they might not even talk about it. They might not even look at it for the rest of the show. But that gun's been sitting on the table. Why?
Right.
It's going to be used. And that's why I was wondering if we could compare that to a lot of the stuff with Breaking Bad. There's always even the what was the chemical he poisoned with? It's that sort of thing. It's the ricin.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. It was like introduced. He talks about it, and then it just kind of gets like scrapped or like gone by the wayside. Then it just like reappears.
Yeah.
I mean, he did. He was like, I was going to use it, then he hit it.
And there were some weird like foreshadowing bits too with oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the girl's name, Jesse's girlfriend the junkie.
Oh man.
Anyway,
yeah,
I'm just drawing a blank right now, but her character in one episode, he's like, "Oh, you're up already?" And she was like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? Sleep forever?" Or not
Ritter.
wake up?
I know I heard
Kristen Ritter.
Yeah, Kristen Ritter's the actress,
And then in another episode, she goes, "Oh, I just threw up a little bit in my mouth." Yeah. So it's like these two very, like when you look back, very obvious references to her character's fate.
Yeah.
That you don't even recognize. That's like somebody drawing an outline of a gun and then it goes off.
Yeah,
later.
it's the foreshadowing, and it's just brilliant script writing. And I think it's just, you got to go back to Vince Gilligan. It's just a genius.
Right.
And maybe we should talk a little bit about the plot. For those of you who might not know, and this is just a broad generalization, the story's about this gentleman named Walter White, who is a high school science teacher. Brilliant, though, like definitely way overqualified.
Yeah.
You come to find out he had like other endeavors before he had to become a high school teacher, basically. But
that could have been very successful.
Yeah, he made him a millionaire, basically. But he comes to find out he has stage 4, I think, lung cancer, or lung cancer just in general. He has cancer.
It's one of the later stages, though. Like it's
progressed, yeah. And so he comes to the realization that, well, screw this. I can't afford my medical treatment, and I'm not going to leave my family, destitute and, wanting. So he's brilliant, and he decides to cook meth because he lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is the meth empire, I think, of the U.S., if not the world.
I'm sure.
I think it's why they put it there. My buddy, I had a buddy, Chris, out in New York. I used to serve with him at Ruby Tuesday, and he was from Albuquerque. And he goes,
Really?
It's one of the main reasons I had to get out of there.
Really?
He's like, I saw too many of my friends. It was a true epidemic.
That's scary.
Yeah, crystal meth, and just terrible.
Well, and
so he goes to Jesse Pinkman, a former high school student who is a meth dealer, and so he knows he's a criminal, and he partners with him.
You just see this guy's spiral.
It is. I describe it as a nonstop worsening train wreck. Somehow, the wrecked train somehow picks up speed off the tracks and continues to plow.
That brings me to one of my first points that I wanted to talk about. It's one of the only shows that I can think of where our main character, I mean, he has an incredible story arc, but he doesn't get better.
he gets worse.
He gets worse and worse
and worse. And he becomes more and more of a monster as the show goes on.
Well, you quickly realize he's not doing it. He could have ended it in the first season and had enough money to A, treatment, and B, like given to his family.
Right.
Fine.
And so there's this deepening of greed and anger and violence and just crime that happens around Walter White.
Yeah.
So a little bit of Reddit credit here. So Drew Review sent in, and I had heard this somewhere else, but I'm just going to read it verbatim what he wrote in. He or she, I guess Drew could be a girl's name too. Drew Barrymore. I don't think this is Drew Barrymore, for the record. If this is Drew Barrymore, I'm going to be...
Hey, Drew. Awesome. Come on the show, Drew.
But he says...
Maybe it's Andrew Barrymore. That would be great. Hi, I'm Drew Barrymore. No relation.
Jesse was originally scripted to be killed off at the end of the first season, but the writer's strike that occurred that year axed the episodes that would have made that happen. So Jesse wasn't even supposed to be permanent.
That's right. He was going to die at the end of it. Yeah,
and
that's
there was another comment that
they loved his character, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm having trouble finding it, but somebody pointed out that, this is a theme anyway, the colors that are used in the show are very indicative of what's going on. So, like, Walter's colors constantly get darker. There's a scene when he's talking in the gymnasium to, like, a bunch of people, and all of the teachers are wearing this, like, beige, kind of very...
Well, he starts out with that green.
Yeah. But then in this scene, he's wearing, like, all the other teachers are light.
Black.
He's wearing dark.
Yeah.
And then you'll notice, too, and this is what was pointed out on Reddit, the post isn't pulling up properly for me, so sorry that I can't credit whoever it was. But
Credit
Reddit. But he pointed out that if somebody was wearing purple, that they were somehow like, I don't want to say in danger, but they were almost vulnerable, or they were out of the loop, or left in mystery.
And that right there is one of the main, not just Breaking Bad, but I love that kind of attention to detail.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrams brings it, like a lot of HBO. The Sopranos would do that a lot. I remember they said that if you ever see oranges in a scene, or Tony eating an orange or picking oranges or orange juice, somebody's about to get killed or shot, because it's a reference to The Godfather, because Marlon Brando's character at one point in the first movie is picking oranges at a outdoor market, and these assassins run up and try to kill him.
What was the movie? It was a Fincher film, I think, where every time you would see an X, a character would die.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. But like I was saying, like that attention to detail. And when you're like, when the writing and the producers are like, we even need these colors. Quentin Tarantino's brilliant about it. Like my favorite thing in Pulp Fiction is when they drag Mia Wallace in overdosing on heroin, and they're gonna stick her with the needle in the heart.
Right.
You see the get board game stacked up in the corner are Operation Life, and there's one more, and they're all. So you're like, oh man, it's all. Yeah. Every book title on a shelf in the episode of Lost. Well, and Breaking Bad too. You're like, it's just it's that cool thing of our world also is in on it. Sort of. Yeah. It's this weird like. I love it.
That same user pointed out along that same line, there are 62 episodes total in the series, and the 62nd element on the periodic table is Samarium, which is a drug that's used to treat lung cancer. And it's in the drug that's used to treat lung cancer. So it's like,
how did they even?
That could be coincidence, but I almost wouldn't put it past them.
I wouldn't either. By that point, when they're like, how many are we going to end with? When they were able to figure it out, because, and I bring this up because from what I gathered in some of my research, Vince Gilligan, basically every year they came to him, they're like, want to do another? And he was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And they never. He might have had like more story written, but like Tuco was supposed to be like the main bad guy. Yeah. Then Fring. Gustavo Fring was supposed to be the utmost, because he was what Walter truly aspired he could be. If everything went well.
But didn't he have it planned out at a certain point that it was only going to end at 5 seasons, like that he wanted it to stop?
I think eventually, but from what I gather, after Fring, that was it. When he blew him up, like that was supposed to be the end. Spoiler alert. But
we already gave our spoiler alert.
It gave a certain heightening to every season,
right?
Even though you like didn't want it to end, and it, like oh man, and you're like, get darker, shave your head, grow a goatee, look crazy, like just. And his dynamic of bringing Jesse back into it, I was thinking like how he would get darker. You know, you'd see even his clothes would get darker. His dynamic between acting with his brother-in-law, who was a DEA agent, with his wife, who he had to lie to for pretty much 4 of the 6 seasons or something. She got into it in the end, which we'll also get to. The brilliant of the last few that the one main episode in the last when
Felina.
No.
The one before it or whatever.
It's that big epic name. It starts with a G, where he takes the daughter.
Yes.
And she's screaming out in the street.
Yeah. I actually watched, there's a great video by Nerdwriter1 on YouTube about all the reactions in that episode. Oh my gosh.
It's nuts.
Go watch that if you get a chance.
It's his name of like a god or something like.
Was it Ozymandias?
Ozymandias, yes, Ozymandias.
Yeah.
Yes, that is probably the best episode of the entire series, I think.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's just the emotional depth that everybody's going through. But and then after that, the phone call he makes is brilliant to get her out of it, to get her out of trouble because he knows their phones are tapped.
Right.
So he yells at her and makes her seem like she had no idea about the whole thing. And he's like calling her like awful names. And you just see both of their faces. He's like crying doing it because he's like, obviously, I don't mean this. And then it cuts to her and she makes the realization while she's on the phone that he's like, oh my gosh, he's actually saving me.
Right.
So it's like, no matter how horrible I feel about this man who's basically ruined my family, there's that one inkling.
The silver lining.
Still a sliver
of humanity because he
even goes back in the very last episode and talks to her in the kitchen briefly. He has one last conversation with Skylar and he's like, you're right. No, he goes, I wanted to come back. I didn't want to give you any more crap. And I did it for the power. I liked it.
Yeah.
And she kind of is like a little like gasps, a little taken aback. But it's that he does. It's crazy seeing a character like that who you see a full character arc and then he basically cuts all the way back to his first episode.
Well,
that's his completion, it is realization.
But he also, it's the first time that we see him in the entire show be honest.
Yeah.
Like he never even to himself says why he's doing it.
Yeah.
You know, he says he's doing it for his family, but then at the end he's like, no, it's the power. It's having
that when she shows him in the room where they're keeping the giant pile of money and she's like, I come here and spray for moths. There's too much. I don't even know what to do with this. This is frightening. This amount of what are we doing here?
Yeah.
I have to spray it for moths. That's great. That's a crazy problem to have.
Yeah.
When you're laundering money and you can't put it anywhere.
Well, and speaking of the laundering aspect, one of the best characters I think is Saul Goodman.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we have a spinoff show.
Yes.
So one of the spinoff shows
very well rated.
So
for a spinoff.
I only watched the first 2 seasons and then I kind of dropped off a little bit.
Me too. Yeah. Kim and I kind of stopped. We moved in together and then kind of everything, we got new jobs and
for
it just
me,
kind of fell apart.
I mean, and it's not that I disliked it. I just felt like it got a little slow. It wasn't moving along enough for me to like Breaking Bad. I couldn't put down, but Better Call Saul, I was like, I could take it or leave it.
The cool thing I liked about Better Call Saul was you're seeing this character and he does start off trying to be honest. He's trying to be good. But he takes these hilarious cases. Right. Each season kind of had like a main case that didn't really ever, but I think eventually they would trickle into Breaking Bad plots. But they were like a guy from the city council was embezzling funds or something like in the first season. So he's working for these criminals and you start to see him like, I've got to be kind of sneaky and criminal myself to help these people. So you're seeing that character development. However, by the second season, they start introducing, you see Tuco. You see the brothers, the Hitmen brothers. You start seeing the character, especially the Mexican cartel characters, and you're like, okay, here we go. Yeah. We're gonna start, and they do. That you're gonna get Gus. You're gonna, but definitely not to the degree that I think that I wanted, and maybe a lot of you might have wanted. But I totally see why they would respect that and be like, we're not going to talk about Walter White on the show.
For me, I have trouble with courtroom dramas anyway, and that it felt like it got a little too close to just being straight courtroom drama.
Yeah.
Or lawyer drama, I guess.
It's like a lot of weird dynamics because you're like, there's all the issues he's having in the law office when I just want to see him open his own and get Thurl, the big bodyguard. Oh, I love that. I think his name was Thurl, which is hilarious.
Perfect.
But I wanted to see that. And I wanted to see him like the first time he may have had to defend Badger.
Yeah.
Because that's truly the connection. You don't need a criminal lawyer. You need a criminal lawyer. Badger, man. It was such...
the writing in Breaking Bad is just so good.
Breaking Bad was one of those shows, too. I love Grand Theft Auto so much. It felt like a Grand Theft Auto show.
Yeah.
Like The Sopranos did as well. When I can see... Okay. I think a great example of like a crime... Let's say Scarface is it's a 3-hour film. You see the trajectory of an immigrant from Cuba.
Yeah.
I think he's illegal too. He's a criminal in Cuba. His rise from literally working in a hot dog stand to the Coke Lord of Miami. So you see this, not just his character arc, you see him build an empire. You see these stacks of money. And that's what I loved about Breaking Bad. They always moved up from the RV into a better space, into more. They were able to produce more. They started hiring a lawyer. You had your dealers now, Badger and Skinny Pete. You were building this empire. And I was like, ooh. Yeah. Yes, that's what I love. That's what I love.
For the sake of time, we have to move into the present of the franchise.
We do. Sorry, we got chatty about that.
Yeah, no, we will always get chitty-chatty.
Which is great, because we were talking, we're like, this is only like 5 seasons. It's like, this is a tiny little franchise.
But you can talk so much about it.
Yeah.
So the present of the franchise is this El Camino movie coming out.
Yeah.
Which by the time this episode airs, that's going to be coming out in a couple weeks. I mean...
So we have to preface this with a little bit of, I think, a last episode spoiler of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So the plot of El Camino... From what I understand, it takes place, I think, directly after Jesse gets in that car and runs.
Yes.
So the final episode of Breaking Bad, basically the climax of it is the neo-Nazis had basically kidnapped, or not kidnapped. Jesse was basically given to him. Like he was basically like a slave prisoner, just handed over.
He was chained. He was... Just on ropes.
And he was Walter's Caliban. If it was a Tempest, like total, correlation. But he was just this kind of like at that point, a true like brainwashed, almost just like, I'll make the meth. I'll just do it.
Yeah.
They beat him. They starve him. It's very abusive. He's chained to a wire.
Yeah, he literally has a wire.
A wire track, like a dog in a back, like a leash, a lead wire in the meth. And he literally has chained like a dog. And just cooking meth nonstop.
And it's sad because Jesse, it's this weird twist where the show starts off with Jesse being this, sort of washed up hack drug dealer, and Walter being
like
a stand-up
he's
guy.
like a 19-year-old piece of crap, in
and
his
then it
crappy
ends
little
with,
car.
You rooting for Jesse to have the life he needs and deserves.
Because the whole show, he's trying to. He keeps cooking meth, and he is the one who's like, we can stop.
Right.
Like I've got a house now. I've got this. I'm building a life. But he can never, it's just Walter keeps bringing him back in. So Walter kills the neo-Nazis with an awesome remote controlled machine gun popping out of the trunk of a car.
Which they tested on Mythbusters, would work. Yep.
And then Jesse gets in an El Camino, which is if you don't know what an El Camino is, it's basically a sedan with a truck bed. Old school 70s car, I think, mostly. And he drives out of there, and he is free. The last shot of him is him just flooring it, and he's crying of joy. He's filthy and scarred, but he's just like, fine, I'm out. And now back to the beginning of our podcast.
Yes.
You watched the trailers. Did you hear what they were saying over the police scanner?
I did not.
The police scanner saying he's sitting there and he's like freaking out. He's smoking a cigarette. Jesse, he's sitting in the dark in the middle of the desert in this car. Mm-hmm. And he's listening to a police scanner, and it's saying there's been reports of it started with reports of neighbors calling when hundreds of gunshots were heard. They came to the scene.
I remember that.
There are 9 male victims found, and one is believed to another male someone escaped.
Yeah,
they know, and that's Jesse. Now, when I looked into it, 9 male bodies was the important part. There were 8 gang members in that.
Okay,
and I looked into it, made sure, and they counted. I watched the scene. There were 8 neo-Nazis. The 9th dead body would be Walter White.
Right.
Which there were all these rumors. Walter walked into the meth lab after Jesse escaped with a gunshot wound. And he was just kind of like, look at this. Look at all this beautiful science instruments.
Right.
And then he like falls back And the last shot is like kind of this panning up as the police kind of surround the body of Walter White, but his eyes are open. He's just kind of looking up, and it just pans away and cuts to black. Yeah. So like everyone's like, is he dead? It was just a stunt. Like he's probably alive. He's just like, unconscious. No. Well, and I'm glad they will reference him, I'm sure, in El Camino.
Yeah.
They taught Mike Ehrmantraut's in it, which also doesn't make sense. So I'm thinking there could be flashbacks. Yeah. So I bet I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Bryan Cranston cameo, but it won't be as an alive Walter White.
I think the fans will be very, very disappointed if there's not a Bryan Cranston cameo, personally.
Or this could all be a twist.
Yeah. It could be, there was another gang member that we didn't know about or whatever. And
how did Meth Damon die? I can't remember. Meth Damon.
Oh, yeah.
What's his name? Very great actor. Oh, phenomenal. He was on Friday Night Lights. He was in that great Game Night movie.
He was awesome in Game Night.
He was in the first or second season of Fargo. That's where he met his new Kirsten Dunst. They're married.
Oh, really?
Jesse Plemons?
Maybe. I think is his name. Yeah.
But yeah, he's phenomenal. Looks like Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Got dubbed Meth Damon.
Yeah. He looks like a budget Matt Damon.
Creepy. Good.
Yeah.
Just not creep, but like horrifying.
Yeah.
For a young man, just like, no, it was that true. And he kind of has like dead eyes. So I think that's why they cast him. He has a true lack of empathy. You saw this character and he was the nephew of the main neo-Nazi. You come to find out. So when he kills that kid, that was crazy.
That was one of the worst scenes.
With the spider. Yeah. The spider in the jar.
So, and I did want to talk about as well. Actually, before we get to talking about that, this El Camino movie.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do with it. I'm so excited because the trailer looks incredible.
Jesse's on the run. Skinny Pete and Badger are back. They're helping him. I think they're trying to help. The idea is they're trying to help him out. I don't know to what end.
I wonder if Jesse's going to get off scot-free.
Go to Mexico?
But I wonder, I think he's going to get caught. And I think there's going to be something that happens.
Like a jury will find him
innocent, or they'll say because of his imprisonment. Yeah. That he could get off.
There's literally no other proof besides him being at the neo-Nazis ranch. Right. Because they can't pin any other of the previous season's, on him. Right. Because they would have already. Walter got off. He did too. Right. It's funny. Jesse has gotten away with everything. However, he's haunted by not the law, but now is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk about too is that there's really only one. I mean, there are a couple I think visual novels that you can use for video games.
Yeah, like graphic stuff.
But there's an iPhone game that you can download and all this other stuff.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you about too.
And it's strange to me because we have this movie coming up, which again, you guys, we can only speculate right now. By the time you're listening to this,
October
it could be out.
5th or 25th. I think it comes out.
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'd have to
Might be the 5th. I think it's sooner rather than later. I think it's
sooner too.
Yeah. We're getting all these trailers for it.
Yeah, and it looks incredible. The trailer gave me chills.
First of, I hope, many little movies. And did you know that I believe it was Aaron Paul's idea, El Camino, the movie, most of the plot idea was his. He came to Vince Gilligan, and they had a very short time to film it. And they said 60 days in the desert. That's how they described the filming of the whole movie.
Wow.
So, yeah.
But anyway. That's still that's a lot, though.
It is a lot. It is a lot. But for such a big deal and big celebrities, that's pretty short. 2 months for a film movie. But back to the mobile game.
Yeah. So, you guys, I haven't downloaded it, but I'm looking at some screenshots right now. It almost looks like a tactics builder where you can literally fight off the police.
Oh, dude, it's basically, there's the Game of Thrones game, there's the Star Wars where you build a town or you build a city and then other players can attack your town and you have to build up a defense. And eventually it gets to the point where you have to wait 3 days for one building to charge up enough resources.
Yeah, and so it's a money grab.
It is the most money grabbing games. So you can play it and get it advances you for a couple hours really quickly. And then eventually you hit that dead point where you're like, well, I could spend 99 cents.
Right. Which I'll be honest, I have spent money on games like that before because I just get so hooked on it where I'm like, okay, I really want to play this next.
There were a couple, a few, but never over $10.
Oh, no. Actually, one game. There was a game called Tap Titans that I spent.
Oh, I remember Tap Titans.
Probably $25-$30 on that. I spent a lot of money on that.
You produced Tap Titans too. You're the reason.
I know, which was a great game.
Yeah, it's truly like an idle clicker boring, dumb, where they have like really, really detailed drawings of the characters that pop up and give you a message, like that like super artistic drawing of them.
Which I can't stand. I hate that type of stuff.
This is just dumb. You bought the name, you bought the rights to the looks and the act, like everything, all the rights, and you just made another idle clicker game.
It's just, it's shovelware. That's all most of these games are. I mean, it's just...
What would you want to see out of a game?
I would like to see like honestly, they could get away with a few things. So one, if they're doing a mobile game, I think they should do a, what was the one game? Venture Capitalist, where you literally are just farming for money.
It's an idle clicker. I love those games.
I think that could do as that. It don't make it more than it has to be.
Yeah.
You can buy upgrades as you go.
You can spend money if you want, but it's just literally you're watching a building with all your meth people, cooking on each floor.
So I think that could be fun. And I think if they were going to do like a full scale game,
is it going to be GTA? That's the thing.
Exactly.
Because they made a Scarface game, GTA clone. They made any Godfather game, GTA clone.
To be honest, I don't think that a Breaking Bad game is built for console.
I don't think it would be appropriate.
No,
that's really because it's like GTA Vice City. Yeah, all they talk about is cocaine, but it's the 80s and you can kind of get away like cocaine, but like crystal meth, prostitutes, it becomes a far darker world.
Yeah.
I just touched the mic. A far darker world that you would be putting your characters in. And it's like, I don't want to like presume anything, but they talk about it in Breaking Bad too. Some of the characters, like they do despicable things for meth. Whereas people do despicable things for cocaine, but not to the degree of despicableness. I think it's far harder.
They could even take it in the direction of, it's an idle clicker sort of, but then occasionally a cop will come in and you need to pick the right dialogue option to not get caught and pay a fine and lose all of your money.
How about this? Idle clicker meets a Pokemon Go. So you got your idle clicker. You set a GPS location as like kind of your home.
Your territory.
Your literal territory. So like your literal address at home, you see like, hey, where it'll be when you start the game, it's like, do you want to mark this as your home locate, your base? When you're there, when your GPS vicinity is like in your neighborhood or on your street, you're producing meth at a higher rate with your idle clicker.
I could see that becoming troublesome though, because I could see people using that as an excuse of like, oh, well, I decided to start selling drugs because I realized this.
That was what Pokemon Go became. Realize what that people were using it for lascivious reasons. You could, locations of people, I'll go there. But the idea is, a cool thing would be that once you left your home territory, then you're dealing those drugs out, and the further away from it, or like if you it gives you a different location, like, hey, go to this Walmart, or if you're here, kind of like over the territory. You can either take over the territory or you're selling your drugs.
They can make it a like Foursquare where you would check in and like you'd be the king of a location.
That way, so the more it's not giving away your current GPS. It's more of
how often check-in. Yeah, how often have you checked in here? Is this your territory?
So it's both an idle clicker and a check-in.
And every time you check in, you get more resources, more money.
You deal those drugs, or like you're getting a better rate. Percentage. It's literally, that's the thing. You're asking for a game to encourage people to deal drugs. So there's no way of
it's gonna be shaky ground.
Walter and Jesse decided to open up a hamburger stand like that. Yeah.
And apart from that, I mean, the last question that I have, because we're actually running low on time, which
unexpectedly with this episode.
We're already at like almost 40 minutes. Yeah. It's just blowing my mind. So my question to you is, after El Camino, and we don't know for sure yet because we don't know how it's going to go. After El Camino, do you want to see a continuation of Breaking Bad as a TV series on Netflix?
Oh, it's a TV series.
Yeah. It's tough.
I don't think so.
No?
Because it's like they did the series, then they did Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Going back to another series almost feels like admitting defeat, one.
Yeah.
And then even though not, because Better Call Saul is a huge hit and they should be very proud of it because it's very good. But, and two, it would be too much of a jump the gun in this like, hey, you guys liked Will and Grace, we're bringing it back. Hey, you guys like this, we're bringing it back 25 years later.
No, and I agree with that. I think that it needs to.
And without Walter White, nobody's Breaking Bad.
Right.
Literally, the title means to choose a life of crime. Right. To switch to that or to cause chaos.
Yeah.
And that's his whole character arc, is him breaking bad over the course of these however many months or years.
And we want to hear from you guys too that are listening. Let us know what you want to see out of El Camino. Yeah. And once it's out, honestly, I would love to hear what you guys thought of El Camino.
Would you like more movies? I like the idea of, if you're going to do Breaking Bad offshoots instead of another series, just more movies. Yeah. We might have a movie now. Depending on how Better Call Saul ends, I would watch a Saul movie.
Yeah.
Involving him and do the same thing. Oh, by the way, so this is, I don't know if they've proved this wrong, but this is just a real quick thought. I was doing a little research, and one of the fan theories is that the black and white scenes you see in Better Call Saul, him at the Cinnabon with a mustache and kind of like living this dreary, basic life, is actually not him in witness protection. That is, if you want to put it in these terms, an alternate reality, or his horrifying vision of what his life would be if he truly went to that.
Interesting.
So the idea is that the last time you see him in Breaking Bad, when he says goodbye to Walter saying, I'm going to go into witness protection and maybe manage a Cinnabon, but that never happens. So we might see Saul with Jesse not going into it. That might tell us what Saul did. I think this movie's
I want to go watch Better Call Saul.
I think the movie, it's kind of his idea of limbo, or his idea of hell.
Yeah.
The black and white is not a reality ever.
Interesting.
And when he gets locked in the dump room, you think, like, I remember that one scene where he literally locks himself in there overnight and he has to go right back to work, basically. Yeah. It's just the idea of a hell.
Yeah. Interesting.
Even his home life in the black and white is a hell.
Weigh in on that too, guys. franchiseunpacked@gmail.com.
I love theories.
Or if you go to franchiseunpacked.com, the site might be down currently. I'm actually working on building up a new website for you guys.
Yeah.
So check that out soon. It's going to be a little bit more responsive, have a little bit more.
In the meantime, check us out on iTunes.
Yeah. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, all that stuff. YouTube.
Yeah.
Instagram. Did you already say Instagram?
I don't know.
Anyway, guys, honestly, we've had a great time doing this episode and researching it. Was a blast.
It was like kind of like a throw. I was like, ooh, nostalgia.
Yeah. I mean, Dave, do you got anything else that you want to add?
No, you can find me on Instagram at the Dave of Wonders.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at the Zach Rogers. And as per usual, our team, I can't speak.
Ooh.
By the end of the night, just
verbal diarrhea.
Just my speech patterns go down the toilet. Our Instagram handle is at Franchise Unpacked. So we'd love it if you checked us out on there. Give us a follow, all that good stuff.
And get ready, because Franchise Unspooked will be coming your way.
Yeah, coming soon to a theater near you. Is that going to be next week?
Yeah, that'll be the first one will be next week.
Wow.
But yeah.
Get ready, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you later.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. The next franchise we'll be unpacking is Friday the 13th. But in the meantime, feel free to drop us a line with any questions, comments, or future episodes at franchiseunpacked@gmail.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify, and be sure to share so we can keep these episodes coming your way. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.